Next, when primary care trusts commission building work, you'd think they'd make all the necessary financial checks first, but not apparently in Leicestershire and Rutland. The trust there paid £1.5 million to Modcon UK to build a new day case unit in Market Harborough. But the company has since collapsed after a winding up order was brought by Revenue and Customs. Worse, the trust has admitted it didn't make financial checks before giving Modcon the contract, and it failed at the outset to ask for a bank guarantee. Lots of questions, you might think, for the trust to answer, but they've declined to join us. But on the line now from London is the MP for Harborough, Edward Garnier, and here in the studio, the Harborough District Councillor, Phil Knowles. Thank you for joining us. Edward Garnier, if I can start with you first, what do you make of the way the Primary Care Trust has handled this contract? Well,
I'm afraid this is just the latest example of what I would describe as shambolic behaviour by the PCT in its various manifestations. This latest disaster with Modcom applies to this particular primary care trust, but over the last 10 years, previous manifestations of the local National Health Service have invested huge sums of money, I would submit going into the millions, into the St Luke's Hospital project, and we still haven't got what the public has a right to expect. But it's been a massive waste of money.
Yeah, but just focusing on this particular unit, do you think it is incredible that they failed to get a banker's guarantee, failed to carry out financial checks?
Well, I'm afraid, I wish it were incredible, but I'm afraid it's all too believable. The way in which this PCT administers its contract system is, if it weren't lamentable, it would be laughable. This is just the latest example in this long and farcical saga, and I think they ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Is it your belief that they have broken government rules the way that they went about this?
Well, they've broken their own rules. They did not use a contractor on the official National Health Service stroke government official contractors list. They did not, as you pointed out in your introduction, get a bank guarantee or a bond. They contracted with a company which has now been wound up, owing huge sums of money to the Revenue and Customs. You couldn't make this up, I'm afraid.
But they did put out a tender evaluation, though, didn't they, to an outside group of quantity surveyors?
Well, that was very nice.
So you're not impressed by that? Phil Knowles, let's bring you in now. You're a local councillor. What are local people telling you about how they feel about this?
Well, I'm very much with Edward on this one. I mean, effectively, the people in Harborough are absolutely... they're annoyed beyond belief. You have a situation here where this company formed an embryonic outfit in, I think, about October of 2009. By January 2010, it was being awarded a contract, and within 9 days of the contract being cancelled on them in June 2011, this company, as Edward has touched on, actually was wound up in the Crown Court. The whole thing is a shambles.
The PCT has put its hands up. It said it has apologised. They've identified what went wrong, and they've said appropriate measures have been put in place to stop this happening again.
I'm sorry, I don't accept that. I mean, this is about public accountability, and the bottom line with the PCT is that actually they have been on the cusp of disaster time after time with all of these things. The PCT, in their own documents from a May 2010 meeting, have highlighted the fact that for 15 years prior to that meeting, they were trying to put schemes together for Harborough, and they failed to do so. So the whole thing is an absolute shambles.
The PCT has admitted to us it was 3 months after signing the contract before these issues came to light about the bank guarantee and financial checks and so forth. What do you make of that admission?
It's an absolute disgrace. I mean, the PCT actually confirmed that they didn't even get anyone with a legal background to overlook these contracts. They took literally an off-the-shelf contract pack, adapted it to what they need. For some reason, they omitted to have the clause in it which required a financial guarantee. They only found out about that by some stroke of luck. And when everything went wrong, then they involved people with a legal background. I think the whole thing is a disaster.
Edward Garnier, despite the delay, the Trust maintains that the ultimate costs will pretty much come in on budget. Are you convinced by that? Do you think it will be around 2.3 million?
No, I don't. They admitted when I took the matter to the Minister earlier this week, the Chief Executive of the PCT said she thought they would go over budget by a few tens of thousands of pounds. This is public money. We can't have large public infrastructure projects being dealt with in this way. We need financial accountability. This is taxpayers' money. This is the National Health Service, which should be serving the NHS patients of my constituency, and it's worse than incompetence. And for the Chief Executive to sit there in front of me and in front of the Minister to say either she didn't know the answer to the questions that I was putting to her, and which very much reflect the sort of questions you've been asking me, or she had inadequate answers, is, in my view, disgraceful. And I hope that the Minister who I sat with during the course of that discussion will look into this matter, will come back with some answers, either from his own officials or extracted, like drawing hen's teeth, from the PCT.
I must ask you this, in the light of your meeting and your severe criticisms that you've just voiced, do you think that there should be a Department of Health investigation into all this?
Well, I've asked the Minister to do precisely that. He has assured me that unless this project is completed by the now delayed timetable of January 2012, I will be permitted to go back into that ministerial room with the PCT, and the atmosphere will be rather different. There certainly won't be any coffee on order on that time.
Can I just say,
yes.
I think the thing is, Edward, and I think you'd agree with this, that this has gone on for so long, it's reached the point now where, when I contacted you in May and said to you, please take this to the Minister, I applaud what you've done, I totally support what you've done, it really has reached the point now where enough is enough. And clearly the only way we're going to get public accountability on this is to get this thing flushed out with a formal inquiry. And I think the sooner the Minister calls that public inquiry, the sooner we have this public accountability.
We're running out of time. Briefly, both of you, Phil Knowles, what action do you want to see taken?
Well, I think we have to get the Minister to call the public inquiry. I've offered to go down, as others have, to support Edward, to give as much information as we can to the Minister, because at the end of the day, people have to be accountable. This is public money, and the whole thing is a shambles. We need this opening, and we need it opening soon. And my worry is that if this isn't done quickly, the whole thing is going to go off the rails on the main scheme.
We have run out of time. Phil Knowles and Edward Garnier, thank you both very much.